From recruiting and consulting firm Riderflex, I'm your host, Steve Urban, and here is your Riderflex episode of the day. On today's episode of the Riderflex podcast, we have guest Ray Decker. He's the hospitality director at Avery Brewing in Boulder, Colorado. We chatted about several of my favorite topics: interviewing, hiring, leadership, and of course, beer. I truly enjoyed my conversation with Ray, and I think you will too. How's my hair look? Do I need to fix that before we start?
Yeah.
Ray Decker on the Riderflex podcast. How you doing, Ray?
I'm really good. Thank you.
It was nice to meet you at Avery. What was it, a month ago or so? 2 months? When was that? A couple of months?
I think it was about July, early July.
Yeah, early July, something like that. It seems like forever ago.
Oh, you know what? No, it was June 24th. It was our opening night.
That's right. Okay. Impressive facility, by the way.
Wednesday, June 24th. I'll remember that day for a long time.
Right, because that was your opening day from COVID. Yeah. How long had you been closed?
We closed March, the Friday the 13th, March. That was our official last day. Was that we did lunch on the 13th, and then we closed up.
That's right. And then when I met you, was the first semi-open. I mean, you were open, but not open normal, right?
Not normal in any means, no. But we were open. Yeah, it was a pretty big push to get going. The state of Colorado, Governor Paulus came out and on the 25th of May, that Monday, Memorial Day, said that restaurants could open on the 27th.
That's right.
And that caught everybody. I mean, caught me by surprise, because the message leading up to that was they were going to try and give us some kind of a runway to prepare. And it's like, yeah, you guys can open in 2 days with a lot of restrictions. But we took our time. We ended up taking a month after that to make sure that we had our flow dialed in, everything was in line, and then we decided to open up on June 24th.
I never would have known that was your first day open from COVID if you hadn't told me, because you had the team ready. I mean, it was like they had been doing it that way all along. Like you didn't even know that they were having to go through all these extra steps and stuff. It was great job on your part. I remember noticing that. But for the listeners, real quick, I guess we should tell them. So Ray is what's your official title there? Hospitality director, or is it just like captain of everything?
I'm the hospitality director. Yeah.
Okay. Avery Brewing in Boulder, Colorado. By the way, my new favorite beer right now, my new favorite is Night Warden.
Oh, it's so good.
I mean, bro, yeah. I've gone through several cases.
Oh, wow. Yeah, beer is amazing. 8.2% can. Yeah, it's such a crusher.
8.2%, and it's aged in whiskey barrels, right? Is that the deal?
Yep.
You introduced me to that when I met you that day. And then now when I go on my solo camping trips to the mountains, I take a bunch with me. It's good. I can have like 2 of those and I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, you should be feeling pretty good.
So Ray Decker is the hospitality director at Avery Brewing, Boulder. Ray, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself personally for a minute? Give the listeners some background about you, where you grew up, family, stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, I grew up in New Jersey. My grandparents were restaurant owners even before I was born. So I was pretty much born into the business. My dad was a chef for the restaurant. My mom was a server. All my aunts and uncles worked there. It was a family-run business. It was it was a seafood restaurant called the Holy Mackerel.
Okay.
And it was built in. It was a restaurant in an old inn that was built in 1764. So it was a historic site. George Washington wasn't there, but a few of his generals had passed through during the Revolutionary War, and somehow my grandparents acquired this building, and it was beautiful. It was on a beautiful piece of land, and I actually lived there on top of the restaurant when I was like 5, 6, and 7 years old.
Wow.
And I remember being in my pajamas and walking down and like peeking my head into the dining room to see if my mom was there, and So that's how I got. I mean, obviously I was kind of thrown into that. I started dishwashing when I was 13 for the summer,
Wow.
and just kind of worked my way through all the different positions. And when I was 20, I decided that I wanted to join the Marine Corps. And so I went in the Marine Corps and did 4 years there. And from that point, I got out, and I mean, what I knew was the restaurant, so I just went right
Yep.
back to the restaurants.
Did
And
you go back? Did you go back to work for the family business or something different?
actually during my time in the Marine Corps, my grandparents sold the last restaurant that they had.
Okay.
So the family kind of had ventured out of the restaurant business. So yeah, I went back into just local restaurants in New Jersey where I was living, and was there for about another 3 years, and then I moved out to Colorado in Boulder.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, that was like my start in Colorado. The Boulder Cork has a pretty extensive wine list,
Uh,
and I was serving in their bar area, more kind of in the casual environment, but I
okay.
wanted to be on the floor,
I
and the
see.
only way to get there was to start learning about wine. So I really took to wine, and that's what cemented me in the industry, was a passion
Okay.
for wine and spirits.
Ah, I see. I see. Okay. Now, back then, what year was this when you worked for
2000.
the? Okay. Okay. Well, it was already expensive to live in Boulder at that time. Not as expensive as it is now, but all right. So you're working there. Let me guess. You got like a little apartment downtown Boulder. You're working at the Cork. You're okay. Are you married? Kids at this time? Single? What were you doing?
Single, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. Living in Boulder, working at the restaurant, single. Okay. Yep. All right. Yeah.
Snowboarding, trail running, yeah, it
All
was,
right.
yeah,
That was a pretty good life. That was a pretty good time right there, right?
yeah, yeah, it was.
Okay, you can tell me about more of those stories later, privately, when I meet you for beers. All right, so at that time, were you thinking, "Hey, this is fun. This is a good time, but I want to do X, Y, Z"? Did you have a plan, or were you just kind of just going through the motions and like, what was the plan?
There's a restaurant in town called Brasserie 1010, and they were getting ready to open.
Okay,
And I had a friend that was had a loose connection, and I got an interview. And I started working for Brasserie. I helped open up the restaurant in July of 2003.
okay,
And again, wine was a big influence there. And I had a mentor who was a master sommelier. His name is Jay Fletcher. And I don't know, he just like, lit a fire for me. And I got certified to become a sommelier, and really started, venturing into the wine side.
now is this level? Aren't there levels like 1, 2, or 3, or something like that?
It was the certified. So there's like an intro, and there's certified. Then they have advanced and masters. So I
Okay,
was a certified sommelier,
okay,
um, and I worked there, and that's actually where I got my first management job. They
all
approached
right,
me to help manage, and I took the management job. And about a year after that, the kitchen in Boulder was getting ready to open the upstairs space,
okay.
and they had approached me about helping open that up. And so the kitchen was like my big introduction to management, and again, wine. But I also took on the beer program there. Um,
Ah,
I was a manager. I was responsible for the upstairs, and I was also running the beer program. And
okay.
I changed it from a macro driven list to, well, I mean, this is 2005, 2006, and craft was just really starting to gain a stronghold. And that's actually where I met Adam Avery. He had come in, and through one of his sales guys, we determined that we were going to host a beer dinner upstairs.
Okay.
And this is 2006, and we
And
just
how long had he been up and running by that point? How old was Avery at that point?
13 years. That was
Okay. Okay.
Avery opened in '93.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Go ahead. All right. So you met. All right.
But this is actually at Avery's first beer dinner in Boulder. They had done a few beer dinners outside of Boulder, but they had never done one inside Boulder. And so we
Interesting.
did it, yeah. And we threw out this like massive, I think it was a 6-course meal. I still have the menu at home. And we
Cool.
finished like the last 4 beers of the dinner were all above 13, 14%. We just left hammered.
Yeah. Cool.
Um, and
But that was your bond. That was your bonding moment with Adam. That
that
was it.
was it. Yeah.
Gotcha. How long after that before he was like, "Hey, bro, I need you to come over here and help me"? How long did that take?
That was 8 years.
8 years later?
8 years later. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So did you stay at the kitchen that whole time for those 8 years, or go?
Yeah, I was at the kitchen for 7.
Okay. Okay.
I had my position grew at the kitchen. I had become the general manager, and then as the kitchen was going through a big growth process, I became the executive GM. So at
Okay.
that point, we had opened the kitchen next door, Boulder, and then also the kitchen in Denver. And I helped open all of those restaurants, but I was also then managing the GMs for those locations.
Who was the primary owner of the restaurant then, of the kitchen?
It's Hugo Matheson and Kimball Musk.
The same owners the whole time?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So great run there, and kept moving up, kept learning, kept getting promotions. I mean, developing your leadership skills. I mean, great experience, fantastic experience. By the way, lots of nights and weekends, man. I don't know how you guys do it in the restaurant industry. I mean, that's just a different life. That's a ton of sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah, at that time I didn't have a boy, and so yeah, it was definitely weighted to the 2 a.m., 3 a.m.s. They definitely take a toll.
Okay, so no, you at that time you weren't married, no kids, none of that.
No, I got married towards the end of the kitchen run, and actually having my son was the catalyst for me leaving the kitchen. He was born in October of 2012,
Okay.
and we left the kitchen in that November. And
Because you're like, I just can't. This is just. I mean, this is great, but it's not for family life.
I can't miss. Yeah, exactly. That was my feeling. It was like I had an opportunity to be a stay-at-home dad, and I did that for a few months.
Oh, sweet. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Wow. You were like, oh, this is awesome. It's Saturday at 6 p.m. and I'm not in a restaurant. That's weird.
Yeah,
All right.
I know.
Okay. So a couple of years with your son, and then what happens? You starting to get restless? Do you get a tap on the shoulder from somebody? Go ahead.
Yeah, my wife at the time, we're no longer together, but she was working down in Florida and in the Tampa area, and
Okay.
we had a conversation. We went out to dinner one night, and we were set to leave Florida the next morning. And we were having a conversation. I'm like, when we get back home, I'm gonna start putting the resume together. I'm just feeling, I need to get back out. And my son's name is Duke. I was like, I feel like Duke is needing more social environment than just his dad, And so the next morning we were driving the 4 out to Orlando, and my phone started ringing, and it was Adam Avery. And he's like, hey, that project we've been trying to get going for the last 3 years? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, we just broke ground. We should talk. And
Is this the new facility that I met you at, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just randomly, I'm like,
wow.
Literally, before I'm like, I'm getting the resume out when we get home, and Adam calls me on my way to the airport.
Wow. Okay. That's all right. That's a sign, right? That's a sign.
So we met literally the next day. I was like, well, I'm flying back from Florida. I'll be home tonight. He's like, why don't you just come in tomorrow? And so I came in the next day, and that was it.
That was the rest. The rest is history. How long you been there now?
6.5 years.
6.5 years. Okay. So you were the one that got the new facility opened. I mean, you managed that whole process to get it open, and you've been there ever since. You're the GM of the facility now. How does that? Okay. Yeah.
So I'm the hospitality director, and my role is I'm responsible for the guest experience, and that. So I'm responsible for the restaurant, the tap room, and the operations. Also, pretty much anything that's forward facing. Pre-COVID, when we were doing tours and festivals and stuff, that would be my responsibility as well.
The guest experience. Can I just tell you? So I'm 53 years old, and I used to. Before I started Riderflex, I used to just travel for business just constantly, right? So I don't even know how many restaurants and bars I've been in my life, thousands, right? And as you get older and you travel a lot, you get super critical of service and food and the environment. You just, if you get to be my age and you've traveled your whole life, as soon as you walk into a location, you're immediately making judgments on every little thing, right? At least I was always. And man, when I was at Avery that day and I met you, there was just such a relaxing, calm, friendly, authentic, genuine feel like about it. That's my best way to describe it. Even when I met you, you were just super welcoming. I guess maybe is another good word. Like, you were just super real. It wasn't fake. It wasn't like you weren't. It just felt like I was just like, man, I just met this guy like 3 minutes ago. I feel like I've known him for 2 years. This is pretty cool. I mean, seriously. And you were making sure. By the way, that's another thing. Restaurant owners and or the GMs of facilities or locations, if they'll just work the audience a little bit, if they'll just come out and just visit with people, I mean, that is so magical. I'm always blown away by general managers and owners that don't come out into the crowd and just visit with guests. I mean, that is a huge thing. The fact that you stopped and visit with us, and I saw you talking to other people while you were keeping your eyes on the crew at the same time, you were, that was really magical. It made me feel really, really good. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Yeah. So I wanted to share that with you. I don't take any of that lightly when I see that, and I can see why you'd be so great at it. So you've been there, and how many employees now for that you supervise?
Right now we have about 60.
60 employees. Wow. Do they get to drink during their shifts?
No, not anymore. We used to, if you were an employee on the floor, we would let you have a couple of tasters of beer throughout, and it was a manager-led. We call them prees, like they're little 5-ounce pours.
Okay.
And once we get through with a big push, or it's like, all right, let's breathe a little bit. We would pour free, and it would be a management-led, and we'd always try and make it some kind of educational purpose.
Yeah.
But since coming back from COVID, we are now our prees are like root beers and cream sodas.
What now? Is there a tie to COVID for that change, or you just thought now's a good time to change that?
I think a little bit of both. Yeah. Just
okay.
I think it was a good opportunity to just change it, and not that it was unhealthy, but I think it's probably a little healthier with.
It's interesting you bring that topic up. That's another thing that I have always noticed about bars. I've always thought it's kind of cool. It's somewhat cool when the bartender will take a shot with you and your buddy. You're talking about something, and this bartender comes over and takes a shot. That's kind of cool. But as a guest, I always thought, maybe other people don't think this way. As a guest, like if my bartender is showing signs of being too tipsy, or they're slurring their words, or I can tell that the alcohol's affected them, that's an immediate turnoff for me. That's an immediate turnoff for me. Yeah, you feel the same way?
Yeah, for sure.
Immediate turnoff.
It's just that's not acceptable.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And that's where that vibe is cool, but I mean, in a setting like what we're trying to create, it's just not acceptable.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I always thought that was a conflict in my head, because I would know bartenders that would do that, and in the moment when they're doing the shot with you, you're like, oh yeah, you're kind of high fiving, and then later you're like, okay, yeah, I don't like you like that. Go back to being a regular bartender. You do such a great job with two things that I noticed. You talked to me about super low turnover. I just assumed that do you call them waiters, waitresses, beer? What do you call them? What's their title? The people that serve the beer to the plate to the patrons.
Servers and
service.
And, yeah, I mean, our team is very flexible. You could be bartending today, you could be serving, be hosting the next day. So we try and keep everybody at a similar level, so that we have a lot of flexibility, with moving people around.
That's a good idea. Well, I just assumed that would be a high turnover job, but you were telling me about the super low turnover, which I was shocked by, which speaks to all kinds of stuff: the environment, the culture you're building there, your leadership, the pay, the benefits, it all wraps up together. Talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, what do you contribute to this low turnover? How are you doing that?
I think there's if you were to poll the staff on why they stay or
Yeah.
what makes
Yeah.
Avery special, I think you would get a very consistent thread around the word family.
Okay.
Um, there's a very tight knit group, um, and when people join, I think um, there's a very just family driven atmosphere, and I think people just really appreciate the level of awareness and appreciation, and we focus on it. We focus on just sharing that and making it a part of our day.
Mm.
So I think that's definitely a big driver, and I think that Avery as a company if you were to poll Avery's employees, the entire company, I think that that's a very similar cultural thread. Is there's this family feel, and so I think that's definitely a backbone to what keeps people here and people excited to want to continue working here.
Is the family feel? Would you to go a level deeper on that? Is that things like you're going out of your way to make sure you care about them as a person, not just an employee, and helping them through? Is that example?
Yep, I think so. Yeah. Um, yeah, there's a lot of examples, especially over this last year. I mean, if somebody is in a rough spot or something's going on in their life, I mean, I think that especially on our side, I mean, I definitely I can speak to what we do, but we bend over to make sure that our team is in good shape, and if they need space, they need time, or whatever it is, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure that they're being taken care of.
That's really awesome. I've told this story on a podcast before, but yeah, if you just go the extra mile to take care of the employees in times of need, you can lock them in for life. A lot of times, I went through a divorce too from my first wife, and I was in a very rough situation where I had just been divorced. My ex-wife had just left me, and I was living in Texas in this little tiny trailer house. It's poor as shit. I didn't have any money, and my wife had took anything we did have, which wasn't much. And my boss at the time, he overheard somebody talking about my situation. And so he found out what my situation was. We were closing down a retail store. And the retail store, like a little small boutique retail store, it was a music retail store back when you had to go to brick and mortar store to buy music before downloading. Anyway, the back of the store had like a little break table, a little microwave, a little mini refrigerator, like where employees would go for break and stuff, and a couple of little chairs and stuff. He rented a U-Haul that day and drove it up to the facility and followed me home and gave me all that stuff for my little trailer house, because I didn't have any furniture. I mean, I had nothing.
Yeah.
And he helped, and he unloaded. And from that day on, I was like, okay, I will kill for this guy. Like, I will die for this guy. Like, I will never leave this guy. Right. It's the little stuff like that, right? That if you just do for the employees at the right time, it really does mean a lot. And it means more than just how much they're making an hour, right? I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
Did that come from Adam and you both, and just the entire leadership team? Has that been driven down from the top, that kind of atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the restaurant side, that's just it's part of, I think, my nature. Just growing up with my family. My family's restaurant. Yeah, my family worked there, but we had a lot of other people that weren't in my family that worked there, for years. I mean, decades. And I think that probably my grandfather instilled that piece in me, and but Avery as a whole, I mean, we have a lot of people that have been working for Avery for 10 plus years, so it's definitely a cultural, I think it's just overall it's a cultural fit, that I vibe with it, and I think it's definitely something that has been in place for a long time.
That's fantastic. What a wonderful atmosphere to be in. Plus, you get to be around beer, which is cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good beer. Really good beer.
you know, really good beer, right? I mean, when I was growing up, I thought to myself, the two coolest companies to work for would be like a beer, wine and spirits company or music retail. I was like, I wanted to work for one of those.
Yeah,
Well, what's better than one of those? I don't know. I couldn't think of anything when I was younger. We're recording this episode on the 20th of August, 2020. So for the listeners that might hear this a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever, we're in the middle of this COVID deal. Managing a facility like you're doing on a regular day is a tough job with 60 employees. Then you throw in, oh, we got to be closed for 2 months, but hey, let's still make sure we somehow meet our numbers and, budgeting, cash flow, payroll. And then we're going to reopen. And when we do reopen, we got to have all these new rules and we got to protect everybody. I mean, bro, can you just tell me what life's been like a little bit over the last couple of months?
the roller coaster. Yeah, I mean, when we closed down the 13th, I think this is where our parent company now comes into play, Mal San Miguel out of Spain.
Okay.
We closed on the 13th, and it came so fast. I mean, it came fast for everybody. We had a big shareholder meeting. I think it was the 11th, the 10th or the 11th that week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and COVID was brought up, but it wasn't like a driving force in this meeting. And all of a sudden, on the Thursday, the 12th, we had an emergency exec meeting, and we're like, "What's going on? Holy cow, we're gonna have to shut down."
Wow.
And we ended up pulling that trigger on Friday. When we pulled the trigger, we said that we would pay our front of house hourly staff for 2 weeks with what they averaged.
Yeah. Good.
The previous, I think year to date. So it wasn't like, yeah, we'll pay them minimum wage for 2 weeks. It was like we paid them what they averaged since year to date. And that
did they make that decision knowing that the PPP loan for payroll coverage was going to be passed by the government, or they made that decision even before that?
Before it, and this was we shut down probably 3 to 4 days. I mean, Governor Pauls came out and everything was shut down on the 17th.
That's right.
We shut down a good 3 to 4 days ahead of a lot of restaurants and businesses. And we didn't have that knowledge. And actually, we didn't qualify for that loan because of our parent company is
that. That's right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Wow. Well, they really stepped up. Wow. Man, that's huge. That's huge.
Talk about, again, like tenure and keeping people. I mean, I think that was, I mean, I get a little emotional around it because
I believe it.
Really, such a crazy time, and I just remember being back in that moment and just feeling like, wow, this is amazing to be able to offer that to our team.
For sure. And then you ended up staying closed for how long?
Well, we ended up closing March 13th. We opened up for curbside in May. So we started curbside. We had to furlough the entire team, including the managers. It was myself, my GM, and my chef and his sous chef. So it was 4 of us that stayed on. Mm-hmm. And we ran curbside beer and food for about a month and a half, just the 4 of us. We did Monday, Wednesday, and Friday sales. And then when we decided that we were going to launch on the 24th, we brought a couple managers ahead of that. And then the team came back on that Monday. We did training the Monday, the 22nd, 23rd, that Monday, Tuesday, and then opened on the 24th.
Wow. And that now at this stage, what kind of rules are in place now, or what are you having to do now? Are you still having to do half capacity, or what are you doing now what are you still having to deal with, I guess is the question.
The regulations are 50% capacity inside or 50 people max.
I see.
So in our inside space, where I'm currently at right now, we couldn't fit more than 42 seats. That's what we have upstairs in the restaurant. And in the tap room downstairs, we just have 18 seats. So we're very limited inside. But we were able to, there's an initiative through Boulder, and it was sparked by the governor. It's called the Boulder Business Recovery Program.
Okay.
And it allowed us to, where you had dinner when you were here out on the lawn, we were able to get that extension. So we were able to add more seating and barrels and tables out there. And
Ah,
they just extended that. They were originally forecasting that to shut down on September 30th. But
okay.
they just last Friday released that we have that space now until October 31st, so Halloween.
Very, very good. Okay, very good.
And
Congratulations on getting through all of that and getting reopened. And you're still having to manage it, right? Because it's still not back to normal. But congratulations on getting. Are all your employees back now, or half capacity back?
they are, yeah, we were able to get them back. Um, we ended up one of my managers. She has been she's a very high scholar. She's been going after her. I'm going to mess this title up, but it's something to be a priest in the Episcopal Church, and
Okay.
she accepted a master's program out in California in Berkeley, and she's living in an amazing apartment. She just moved out there, so she didn't return from furlough, and but we were able to get the rest of the team back.
Now you see for the listeners right there. Let's just see how Ray knows that manager so personally, and how you really have a very genuine feel like, I know what's going on in her life. I'm glad that she's able to do this, and you know the details. I mean, that just really speaks to your relationship with your people. I love that. That's that perfect example of what we've been talking about. Let me ask you this. We do a lot of daily tips on our podcast at Riderflex for candidates interviewing for jobs. Um, what are 2 or 3 tips you would give to the general listener on interviewing at Avery? I don't want you to give all the secrets away, but when they come in to interview, can you talk a little bit about what you're looking for, 2 or 3 things that you're really watching for?
Yeah, I think one word that we unanimously use is no-brainer. When I get up from a conversation, I want to be excited. I want to be like, we have to have this person.
I got you.
So we call them no-brainers, and we try and get as many. Typically we are hiring into what we would call an entry position, so our host food runner team,
Okay.
and sometimes they come with a lot of experience, sometimes they don't. But I think ultimately, what is a driving force in our decision is their attitude, how excited they are, what kind of energy they bring to the interview, how bad do they want to work here, or are they just looking for a job? And
Bingo, right there.
and if I get up, I mean, typically for me, the longer I speak, the longer we're talking, the more excited I am, they are. And so I actually have an interview today at 2:00. So I haven't had one in quite a while. It's been a while since we've hired somebody, but so that'll be fun.
Yeah, I like what you said about the no-brainer, meaning, yeah, if you and you may be a manager or whoever else is on the hiring team right there that's interviewing somebody, if you all get up and go, well, yeah, he's okay, let me think about it, yeah, it's like, no.
I mean, no flags. Like we can't. I mean, and
Yeah,
that's the thing. I mean, if we have three managers all say no brainer, no brainer, no brainer,
there you
we
go.
have to bring that person in. We look for the person that like we would create a position for, and they
There
typically,
you go.
they're the ones that hang on. They're the ones that will commit to working through that. The entry, get in there, learn, want to grow. So yeah, it's the no brainers.
You touched on it too, and I want to highlight this for the candidates, for anybody that's in, maybe you're looking for a job change or something, or career change, or you're in the market for a job. You have got to convince me why, as a recruiting firm, you got to convince me why you want to work for our client, whatever client we happen to be filling the role for. Like if you haven't done any homework on the client, and you don't know anything about the company, you don't know anybody that works there, and you can't passionately tell me why specifically you want to work for them, and you're not passionate about it, and I can't feel your energy on it, and I can tell you haven't done any homework, and I'm starting to just get a sense that it's just another job. Like you're not getting it. And Ray, I am so blown away by how many candidates just do not prepare for an interview and don't study the company or come with good questions or come with energy. I really am blown away by that. And I mean, that's what we do for a living, right? So we interview people all day long.
Right.
And so often I'm like, okay, so what do you know about the company, Johnny? And they're like, well, and then you can see them kind of, because we're doing Zoom, right? So you can see that they're trying to look up the company real quick on the website and to answer my question. I'm like, okay, this interview's over. Yeah, you gotta be passionate about why you want to work for a specific company in a specific industry. I think that's so important. How would you, is there anything else that you look for in their style or their personality? Is there something that you're like, okay, that fits our culture? Is there anything else you're looking for generally?
I wouldn't say there's anything like a specific. I think a lot of it's just driven off of feel.
Okay. Okay.
Imagine this person being on the floor. Like if I can't imagine the person being on the floor engaging with our staff, engaging with our guests, then it's probably not a good
There
fit.
you go. There you go. Do you have a couple of favorite questions you asked during the interview, or do you just kind of, you want the conversation to flow naturally and you just kind of shoot from the hip, or are you one of those guys that's got the list, or what do you?
Um, I would say probably my signature question, and I'm also told that I am a very scary interviewer. Yeah, they say I'm pretty intense, but I guess I don't know. But my signature question, and I've been asking this one for a long time, is like, all right, this is the scenario. You're on a plane. You're flying somewhere over the ocean. Tragically, the plane crashes, but you are a survivor. When you come to, you realize you land on a beach, and when you get on this beach, you discover a lifetime supply of one beer. What is that beer? Or what would you want that beer to be? And then that opens up as like, oh, I don't know, maybe like a lager. I'm like, no, what is the one specific? And I drill them. I don't give up until they call out one beer.
Are you looking for product knowledge there, or are you just you're trying to assess their judgment and reaction to the question, or all the above?
I think it's all the above, and just like is beer exciting for them? Like there's people
Yeah.
that come like, oh my god, this is so. I think I would do this, but maybe I'm like, God, give me one beer. What is it? And then when they finally give me the beer, then I'm like, all right, cool. I'm sitting at your bar. What would you recommend me? And then I ask them to describe the beer. I'm like, all right, talk about the beer. Why do you love it so much? Why would this be one beer?
Good.
I'm like, all right, cool. Well, now I'm sitting at your bar, your table. Why would you recommend this beer, and what would you recommend I eat with
Oh,
it?
that's a great follow-up question. Great follow-up question.
And that's usually a good, it's like that, like the more energy they have in that question and answering, and excited they are, I think it just speaks to, their comfort level and how they engage, their comfort in talking about beer. Like, are they shy because they think that whatever they're going to recommend is wrong? And I think that's usually, that is one of like
Really good stuff. That's really good stuff. That's really good stuff. Now, for everybody interviewing, they're going to be, the word's going to get out like, hey, listen to the podcast recording. He gives the secret away. Now, if anybody says Budweiser or Coors, like a general answer like that, are you like, okay, no, you're not.
Well, actually, I've had a couple of those, and I remember this one girl, Peyton, called her Pepe.
Okay.
She called out Bud Heavy. She's like, I want Bud Heavy. I'm like, really? I'm like, all right, cool. And then I followed up with I'm like, all right, talk to me about this beer. Why do you love it so much? And it just like opened up this whole story
Okay.
around why she loves Bud, and she came from St. Louis, and blah blah blah. This is what it's in her dad's
Oh,
refrigerator. All right,
okay.
cool. Recommend me eating with it, and it just like she crushed it.
All
So
right. Cool.
definitely no.
So there's really no right or wrong answer on the beer on what you name. It's how you answer it and the passion around it and the knowledge. Okay, very good. That's cool. I like that. That's really good stuff. What's the plan for Ray now? I don't know how much you want to share there, but do you want to retire with Avery? Do you want to eventually maybe? I mean, you strike me as the kind of guy that's got so much experience now, not only in kitchen with wine, with beer. Like, I'm really surprised one of these rich folks that live in Boulder I don't mean to imply that everybody lives in Boulder is rich, but I'm surprised some wealthy person hasn't come to you and said, hey man, listen, I'll give you a few $1,000,000. I want you to start your own place. I'm surprised that hasn't happened already.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, as far as like plans are concerned right now, I don't have any plans on leaving Avery anytime soon, and
Okay.
we're getting ready to launch we're going to be doing in-house delivery, and through the online ordering platform through Arrives. I know that you were talking with David, but
Yes.
and just think, just what are we going to do, when it starts getting cold out, and, just,
Oh,
preparing for some pretty potential big pivots. And so I think that's what my focus is on right now. And just, thinking about this next year and how we can continue growing.
you know, I really, truly miss just going down to the tavern, local tavern where my buddies hang out and just walking into sitting down at the bar
Mm.
and just shooting the shit and just visiting with them in a regular environment where we're not having to, it's not weird or awkward or something or whatever. Like I just really miss that, man. I don't know any other way to talk about any other way to express it.
Just it's a big piece that is not there right now, and yeah, it's just hard to say how long it's going to take before that comes back.
I
But
know, right?
with you, it's tough.
It's really,
I
it's,
miss on our side too. I miss having people like yourself come in, and that's the deal. They come in and they hang out, they engage with the staff, and it's a great energy and it's a missing piece for sure.
yes, I really miss it. Yeah. I always tell people like, I'm pretty sure we weren't meant to live in caves. Like we're social creatures. We want to socialize. We gotta get out there. Right. And so, yeah, I really miss that. You can I guess in today's world, you can go to a restaurant, you can set it like a high top or whatever, maybe near the bar, but you can't just meet your buddy and belly up to the bar and watch the game, talk about sports and chicks and all the rest of it. uh, yeah, I'll be glad when we're past all this, my friend. I'm sure you will be too.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Two last questions. We're almost out of time. If you could call the young man in Jersey right before he signed up for the Marine Corps, what would you tell him today?
Man, that's a tough question. It's a good question. Let's see. I would say don't be afraid to look for the opportunities and seize them when they present themselves. And just, I think, yeah, always look for the opportunities.
Okay.
And,
Okay. All right.
mm,
Very good. Very good. I said two more. I got two more questions. Have you read the book Kitchen Confidential from Anthony Bourdain?
have not. No, I
Oh,
own it. I have not read it. Yeah, I
oh,
will.
now that surprises me. You're a restaurant guy. I figured
I know.
because the reason I'm asking you that is because there's stories in there from him that I'm guessing you that have been through, like all the little kitchen stories and all that, you know. By the way, anytime I'm interviewing as a recruiting firm, if I see a guy's resume and it says I was a line cook for this many years, and then I paid my way through school, and then I was a line cook, and then I was a waitress, and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, I automatically have respect for this person because that is a tough ass job with lots of hours, and you got to learn all the people skills that it requires in the kitchen and out on the front end in front of customers. I mean, there's just so many soft skills that are developed through that experience. So anytime I see that on somebody's resume where they say they have something like that, I'm like, okay, this person right here, you know. The last question I have is, if Ray had to put his core purpose in life into a sentence, what would that sound like?
Um, core purpose in a sentence. I would say, um, be true to myself, true to others, and lead and help inspire and crush. I just just
Well, you're doing all those things right now, my friend.
you gotta always crush.
Is that a word? Is that a buzzword? Is that a buzzword for the Avery team, crush?
I would say it's probably it's a word I use very often.
Okay.
Probably I use it in just about every email I send out to the team.
Oh, really?
I use it in a different way, like may the may the winds of crush, get going. I don't know. It's
I like that. Oh, I like that. Okay. Yeah, I like that. The winds of crush. Where'd that come from? That's a good one.
For a long time. We pre-COVID, we would have all hands meeting once a month with the entire staff, and I developed what was called a 5-minute prezi, and so we would always have a 5-minute prezi, and that was who volunteered, and so next meeting they would give their 5-minute prezi, and it was to help people get up in front of the in front of the team and
cool.
Speak in front of the public, and so I did my 5-minute prezi one time was the origin of the word crush.
Oh man, that's enough. You got to come back on the show now. We're going to talk about crush for 30 minutes. That's a good one. Ray, thanks so much for being on the Riderflex podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great talking with you, Steve. Thank you.
The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.